During the Restoration, Aphra Behn broke convention and became the first woman in England to earn her living by the pen. As such, Behn faced moral condemnation because it was not considered respectable for a woman to publish her writing. The supposed close proximity of a published and a public woman or prostitute compelled creative women to distribute their manuscripts privately, called coterie circulation. And yet publish she did, poetry, plays, and fiction. She was prolific. In the Restoration period, 1660 to 1700, only John Dryden managed to have more plays performed than Behn. However, for at least 250 years after her death, her name was infamous, associated with females of loose morals and scandalous writing. However, Virginia Woolf, in her 1929 A Room of One's Own, came to her defense, asserting, "All women ought to let flowers fall upon the tomb of Aphra Behn," which is, most scandalously, but rather appropriately, in Westminster Abbey, for it was she who earned them the right to speak. Behn lived from 1640 to 1689. Very little is known for certain about her. She came from a humble background. She was born Aphra Johnson, the daughter of a barber. There is some evidence suggesting that she may have been raised a Roman Catholic, and throughout her career she seems to have associated with Roman Catholics, who were hated and feared in England. In 1663, it is very possible that she visited an English sugar colony on the Suriname River on the coast east of Venezuela. During this trip, she is supposed to have met an African slave leader whose story formed the basis for one of her most famous works, the novel Orinoco. After returning to England in 1664, she married John Behn, who died soon after. Behn was a dedicated follower of King Charles II, the Stuart monarch restored to the throne in 1660, after the Puritan interregnum. As Britain and the world's first political parties, the Whigs and Tories, started coming into existence, Behn became a staunch Tory, which was the party supporting the Stuart regime's royal prerogative. The Whig Party wanted to curb the Stuart royal power. So much was Behn a supporter of the Stuart regime that she served as a spy for Charles II in Flanders, modern-day Belgium, monitoring military movements of the Dutch during the Second Anglo-Dutch War, which took place between 1665 and 1667. Behn despised the Dutch because they represented to her the money-grubbing ethos of capitalism. England was not yet a capitalist nation. Capitalism first emerged in the early 17th century in the Dutch Republic across the North Sea, and had not yet come to England. By the mid-17th century, the Dutch were a major naval power. On her spy mission in Flanders, it is believed that Behn's code name was Estrella, which she later used as a nom de plume, especially in her poetry. As a spy, she sent intelligence home that the Dutch Navy was intending to sail up the Thames and burn the English naval fleet in its harbor. However, the command in London ignored this intelligence. Later, much to the chagrin of the English, the Dutch indeed did just this, and the English fleet wound up being burned. Unfortunately, after her spy mission was over and Behn returned home, she wound up in debtor's prison because King Charles never got around to paying for her services. To free her, others had to pay her debts, which she incurred working for him as a spy. Still, she remained a loyalist, firmly in the Stuart camp. In the early 1670s, she turned to writing plays and enjoyed great success. Her most famous play, one that is still read and performed today, is The Rover, first performed in 1677. In the 1680s, she turned to writing novels. Love Letters Between a Nobleman and His Sister, which appeared between 1684 and 1687 in 3 installments, did much to establish the practice of serialization. According to William Warner, you can thank Aphra Behn for the concept of the sequel, which means you can blame her for Terminator 2. In 1685, King Charles II died and was succeeded by his Roman Catholic brother, James II. James was extremely unpopular on account of his religion, and in 1688 he was forcibly removed from the English throne by an invading Dutch army under the command of the Dutch stadtholder, William of Orange. Prior to the invasion, most everyone suspected that Behn's beloved Stuart regime in some way or another was going to fall, and it was probably at this time that she wrote the stories that I think constitute her best work, Orinoco, The History of the Nun, and The Fair Jilt, all published in 1688. I have not been able to pin down when the stories we are reading for this course were published. The Unfortunate Bride, or The Blind Lady of Beauty, and The Dumb Virgin, or The Force of Imagination, may have been published as early as 1687, though the editions we are working with appear to have been published posthumously in 1689. In any case, Behn died in April of 1689. By then, the last Stuart king, James II, had fled into France into exile. The Dutch army was occupying London, and the Dutch stadtholder, William of Orange, was crowned the new English king, William III, on April 11, 1689. The Dutch, whom Behn ferociously hated, had taken over England. Behn died just 5 days after William's coronation on April 16th. She was buried in Westminster Abbey, in the Poets' Corner, where now are buried many of the most famous English poets and writers: John Dryden, William Blake, William Wordsworth, John Keats, Alexander Pope, John Milton, T.S. Eliot, the Bronte sisters, Jane Austen, and many, many more.